Hello trainers, Professor Palm here. And trainers, I just want to welcome you all to 2023! Isn't it great? We're starting off a brand new year. So let's start off big, but also let's start off nice and fresh. While a lot of people really like to start off the year with a bang, I was thinking let's go a different route. Instead of a big bang, let's start off with a shark attack!
Shark attack? Oh no, not a Sharpedo video. I'm terrified of the ocean. Oh, wait, you mean land sharks, right? Which means you are about to be covering my favorite Pokemon of all time. Glad I got here in time.
Ah, Professor Sassafras. Welcome. And you guessed right. We're talking about your favorite Pokemon line of all time. Of course, the land shark line being Gible, Gabite, and of course, Garchomp. I know how much of a very special place Garchomp has in your heart and how much you really love this line. So I just want to say, I would not dare dream of talking about this line without you, Professor. So I'm very happy that you're here.
I appreciate you having me here for this very special video then, Professor Palm.
Well, Professor Sassafras, now that you're here, would you like to start off 2023 with a shark attack?
Boy, would I! This is gonna be epic!
For those of you who ever took on a Gible, a Gabite, and a Garchomp, I'm pretty sure you then realize how brutal sharks can be. In the water, they're definitely brutal creatures, but on land, oh boy, they're monsters for all the right reasons.
Monsters or not, this land shark line is one that most trainers here either love or fear ever since their introduction in Gen 4. Just thinking about them is just getting me all gushy already. But we'll need to go over the basics before we get into the good stuff. Floor's all yours, Professor Palm.
Well, Professor, before we begin this brutal battle of the land sharks, I want to give a very special thanks to you for requesting this episode, but I also want to give a big thanks to fellow subscriber PuffySparklez. Both of you really love the Garchomp line, and of course we had to cover it. So I hope that you both enjoy this video to the fullest, and I hope that you're ready to see what it means to take on a shark. But of course, you both aren't the only ones that I'm going to be thanking today. If you like the shirt that I'm wearing, this is actually the Dragon-type jersey worn by Gym Leader Raihan in the Galar region. Oh, and this shirt was made by talented artist HTTP Koopa. I bought this off Etsy. If you're a Pokemon or even cartoon fan who really loves shirts as well as outfits that characters wear but wish you could buy them as you can't find them there, well, HTTP Koopa can make that dream a reality. He makes incredible shirts just like this, so please pay him a visit. And also, tell him Professor Palm sent you. Since I'm wearing the Dragon-type jersey, I'm curious to know, do you like Dragon-type Pokemon, or did you really love the battle you had against Raihan? Whatever the case might be, please check him out. And if you really love this shirt, then all I could say is I personally recommend that you buy it from a talented artist like him. Well, it's time to learn the strength as well as the bite of a shark. But as much as we really want to talk about the Terror King land shark, I think it's time to talk all about the little chomper itself, Gible! Gible the land shark Pokemon is based on sharks, but specifically the hammerhead shark. Gible have a gender difference depending on male and female, and if you look very carefully at its back fin, you can tell that mine is a female, because if it was a male, it would have a tear in its back fin, and this one does not. For its habitat, Gible enjoy nice hot places, but something that you should know is once they did live in the tropics, where it could be nice and hot, but also could get very cold. So to avoid the cold, they moved into caves. Not just any caves, caves that were warmed by geothermal heat, which could keep Gible warm even in the harshest of winters and blizzards. In these geothermal heated caves, Gible make their nests. They make them in small horizontal holes within the cave wall, and they live with other Gible, mainly because Gible really don't like to be alone. Oh, and something that's kind of interesting was, if you were to explore the nests, you would see that all the tunnels connect to one another. However, it would probably be best for you to explore it if you knew it was empty, because anything that usually goes into a Gible's nest never comes out. Mainly because a lot of Gible stay within their nests, defending them like soldiers. Always be careful whenever you approach caves, because there's a very high chance Gible might be living there, and if anything comes too close, Gible will pounce right out of its cave hole and attack its prey, not just using its teeth, but it will also attack with its dragon-type moves, mainly Dragon Rage, so you could either be bitten up by a little Gible or blasted by its Dragon Rage. Also, anything that lies on the ground defeated is always never coming back, because Gible will drag that prey back to its nest by its jaws. While Gible does pack quite a powerful bite, just remember that they are babies and the force of Gible's attacks sometimes can chip its teeth. Just like sharks themselves, Gible's teeth grow back really quickly, but other than its teeth, being small also has its advantages. You see, Gible are so determined to win and are so strong as babies that even when they're injured, they go on a fight ignoring their injuries, as they really don't like to show any sort of weakness. Well, here's some good news. You're never going to be on the menu for a Gible by itself. You see, despite Gible's big jaws and targeting bigger prey, they have surprisingly small stomachs, so they can't eat big meals. So yeah, as I said, you're off the menu. You're good. Gible also really enjoy being in sandy areas as well as deserts. Mainly, these Pokemon love heat. Oh, and Gible also like to do something kind of funny. Just like in Steven Spielberg's movie Jaws, Gible like to get under the sand and stick their back fin out as well as dig while they're going. So yeah, it looks like that a shark attack's about to take place on the sand. That definitely makes people and Pokemon run. Maybe it'd be great to play the Jaws music next time you see that. Gible made its debut in the Pokemon movie, The Rise of Darkrai, where it was briefly seen battling a Bronzor. Gible made its anime debut in the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Galactic Battles episode, A Rivalry to Gibbelon, where it was caught by Corey on Mount Shady, after he and Ash tried to capture it many times. Other trainers also attempted to catch it too, as it was seen as one of the most powerful Pokemon in the area. As cool as it would have been if Ash beat Corey and captured Gible, don't feel too bad, as he himself eventually caught this incredible Landshark Pokemon, and it became the very first Dragon-type Pokemon Ash ever caught. It's sad to say though, it never evolved and never really went anywhere after he captured it. And of course, as seen in the anime, Gible was the very first Pokemon given to champion Cynthia when she was just a child. It first started off as an egg in her grandmother's care, which Cynthia took great care of, but when it hatched, it was a Gible, and because of that bond that Cynthia had between the egg, she and Gible became best friends. We all know what road she went on as soon as that egg hatched. In the games, specifically Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, Gible was sometimes a very hard Pokemon to catch because of the move Takedown, so putting it in the red and throwing a Pokeball was oftentimes a bad idea. But once you caught this thing, you were on top of the world. In Pokemon Ranger Shadows of Almaya, after clearing the quest in Boyolin, Gible can be obtained not just as a Pokemon that you capture, but as a possible partner Pokemon. So, if you love this Pokemon, I'm happy to say, as a Pokemon Ranger, it can be your partner. For a little shark, Gible sure packs a mean bite, but remember, this is just a baby shark. Do not start singing that song, we don't need it here. Let me just tell you, when it gets older, it gets even stronger and it bites even harder. So, I think it's time we evolve our little Gible into Gabite. Now it's time to see what a Pokemon with big jaws can really do. Gabite, the cave Pokemon, is based on a shark, specifically the hammerhead shark, but it's also very reminiscent of European dragons. Gabite have a gender difference. How you can tell is very simple, as it comes from its back fin. If it's a male, it will have a tear in its back fin. If it's a female, it won't. So, as you can see, my Gabite is a female. On an interesting note, just like hammerhead sharks, Gabite emit ultrasonic waves from both protrusions on either side of its head. This not only helps it see within the dark of pitch black caves, but also tells what's ahead and also if anything is there. Gabite are such strong Pokemon that they have never been seen showing any sort of weakness, ever stand down, or even show that they're sick. Because of this, there was a long-held belief that if someone were to make medicine from one of its scales, it would be able to be used to be healing the most incurable of illnesses. There is also a belief that Gabite was one of the most invincible Pokemon out there. I guess this was back in the Hisuian times. After all, so many people were afraid to go out there and see Pokemon as they could do terrible things. And since Gabite was one of the Pokemon that would oftentimes come by, I guess they never saw how terrifying it was when it became a Garchomp. In rare cases, Gabite molts and sheds its scales so it grows larger. If you manage to get your hands on any of the Gabite scales, they go for a lot of money as they're very sought after by collectors. Also, maybe you could also test the theory to see if it can be a cure for all sicknesses. That is, if you crush it into powder. But just know that getting a Gabite scale the normal way, asking for one, or even getting it from your own, is a very difficult task. The main reason why is because Gabite scales are so sensitive that even its own trainers will be bitten if they touch it. Gabite are also treasure hunters, and shiny objects are its passion. Anything that it finds shiny will be taken to the nest and stays there as its own treasure. Oftentimes, Carbink are mistaken for treasure which Gabite take to its nest. Since Gabite is a jewel lover, its natural enemy as well as competitor is none other than Sableye, which itself is a jewel collector too. Something interesting to note is that Sableye can steal the jewels as well as treasure that Gabite has within its nest. With its ghost powers, it can easily go through the wall as well as make what it's holding intangible. But at the same time, Gabite also hunts Sableye. After all, since they love jewels and shiny things, the diamonds in Sableye's eyes, as well as the jewels on its back as well as chest, are definitely something Gabite wants to add to its collection. For its habitat, Gabite loves to live in caves where jewels are buried, but it also really likes to live in dark as well as warm caves. This is where they make their nests, and if you were ever to see what nests they have, you would find so much treasure within there. When entering a cave, always be very cautious as it's possible it's a Gabite's nest. If you enter, you'll be torn to shreds as Gabite hate intruders. The main reason it does this is to protect its nest as well as all of its treasure from those that want to steal from it. Even if you mean no harm, Gabite always does this as a safety precaution. After all, there are a lot of greedy people out there that would just want to loot its nest for all the priceless treasure. I kinda can't blame Gabite. After all, this is all its treasure and people just want to steal it. But just like dragons in media, it does beg the question, why do they need all this gold and treasure? It's not like they're going to spend it on anything, so why do they hold on to it, and what's the purpose of it being there? On an interesting note, if you were being chased or attacked by a Gabite, give it some treasure or something shiny. They'll go from a violent shark to a docile shark in just seconds. There is no reason for why they do this, but I guess because they do so much work and trying to find treasure is so hard for them, somebody giving them something is enough for them to say, "You're my friend now. Okay, I won't hurt you." Gabite made its anime debut in the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Galactic Battles episode, Another One Gabites the Dust, under the ownership of Dawn's contest rival, Ursula. Her Gabite served as her star Pokemon. In the core series game, even though Gabite is a great Pokemon, it's sadly never been the boss or major Pokemon of any good Dragon-type trainer. But in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time, Darkness, and the Sky, Gabite is the boss of the Labyrinth Cave. While Gabite is a cave terror you don't want to mess with, it's not the Pokemon that will... Oh geez, that music. It can't be. It means... Oh no! Yep, the time has arrived. It's time we evolve our Gabite into the King Shark itself, Garchomp! And trust me, if you were ever afraid of sharks in the water, now you'll fear them on land and the sky. Time for you to take it away, Professor Sassafras.
Garchomp the mock Pokemon is based on a...
Wyvern.
Right, that, as well as a shark, specifically the hammerhead. It's also based on the dinosaur the Tyrannosaurus Rex, as well as jet planes too. Garchomp has a gender difference and it comes from its back fin. The males have a tear in the back as the females don't. As you can see, Professor Palm's Garchomp is a female. And speaking of which, Garchomp is the first as a pseudo-legendary Pokemon to have a gender difference. Isn't that cool? Just like with actual hammerhead sharks, The protuberances on Garchomp's head serve as sensors, and they can even help Garchomp see in the darkest of caves or the darkest of nights. And they actually serve as antennas, as they can detect motion and radio waves as well. Garchomp also have very short fuses, as these Pokemon prefer to solve their problems not with words, but through violence, oftentimes by biting down on the problem with their exceptionally sharp teeth, or slicing them into ribbons with those sharp claws. In the wild, for its habitat, Garchomp makes its home in volcanic mountains, and they are so dominant in that area that they never clean up. And they mark their territory with shark bites, marks, and slashes. If you walk into a Garchomp's territory, Arceus save you, as you can never outrun a wild Garchomp. It's fast on land, underground, and even in the sky. Anything that Garchomp marks as prey will never see another day again. When Garchomp folds up its body and extends its wings, it looks like a jet plane, and it flies at supersonic speeds. Garchomp's speed rivals jet planes, as Garchomp can go up to Mach 5 in just seconds after taking off. While seeing a Garchomp soar in the sky can be terrifying, it's also a magnificent sight, and one to behold, as you can see Garchomp using its full power when in the sky. It's so fast it'll blow you away, as well as trees in the air, which will shake with the raw force of its mighty wind. Like we said earlier, Garchomp has a very short fuse, and it doesn't like having anything in its way, especially when flying. If any person or Pokemon manages to get in its way, Garchomp will slice it, chomp it, or even beat it down, just so it has a clear view of where it's going. Being a shark, you may have been told to avoid sharks' teeth. Garchomp is no exception. In fact, Garchomp's teeth are so sharp it could break a bone apart in just a single crunch. Garchomp's teeth also can fall out or get damaged. But because of its colossal power, when it happens, another pops right into place in a matter of minutes. While flying, any bird or flying type Pokemon in Garchomp's way will end up devoured, from how Garchomp hates sharing the sky with anything other than itself. There have been a few times here and there where Garchomp is known to eat an entire flock of bird Pokemon. Terrifying, you may say, but Garchomp will just call that snack time. In the sky, Garchomp has a rival, and even though it doesn't like sharing the sky, the rival competing for it is none other than the other dragon pseudo-legendary itself, Salamence, as they compete for speed and food. If you ever wanted to ask what Pokemon isn't legendary, but has the traits and is also very strong enough to be considered one, there are many pseudo-legendaries you could consider, but I think the best one is Garchomp itself. This Pokemon gives the real meaning to what it means to be a pseudo-legendary. Garchomp made its anime debut in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl episode Top Down Training, under the ownership of Sinnoh champion herself, Cynthia. In the core series game, Garchomp is the boss Pokemon of Cynthia, the Sinnoh champion. Anyone going against that boss Pokemon will have PTSD, especially when that theme plays, which is playing right now if you've been listening. You're welcome. However, it's not just known as Cynthia's theme, it's also secondarily known as Garchomp's Rampage theme. In Pokemon Legends Arceus, Garchomp is also the boss Pokemon of Cynthia's ancestor and trainer, Volo. In most games, Garchomp often keeps up with his trainer by flying after them. And the most ridiculous part about Garchomp in the game is, after all we said about it flying, seeing it fly in the anime as well, seeing it flying in its overworld sprite, it can't learn fly. Why? Just why, Game Freak? Why?
As incredible as well as scary these land sharks can be, just remember they also have weaknesses. So if you're being attacked, just remember to use one of these Pokemon that is their weakness. Just know that Gible, Gabite, and Garchomp are weak to Fairy and Dragon. They do have one more weakness, but just know, these are only the ×2 weakness. They have a ×4 weakness. So if you're ever against a Gabite, a Gible, or Garchomp, this is the perfect Pokemon to have on hand. And that, of course, is Ice. Yep, because both Ground and Dragon are weak to Ice, combining them together gives Ice the full advantage. It is kind of sad that we had to talk all about Gible, Gabite, and Garchomp's weaknesses, as we really do love seeing these Pokemon. So, why don't we make up for it and talk about its strengths? After all, I think we're here to see shark attacks. If you really want to psych out your opponent and give them a terrifying shark attack, then I would say the perfect Pokemon to use Gible, Gabite, and Garchomp against would be Fire, Rock, Steel, Dragon, and Electric. But wait, as you know, Gible, Gabite, and Garchomp are dragon and ground, so not only are they super effective against electric-type Pokemon, but they're immune to their attacks as well. That's right, electric-type Pokemon. You can zap a lot of sharks, but these are the only sharks you can't touch. If you're afraid to go into the ocean because you think you're going to be attacked by sharks, then let me tell you, the ocean is the least of your worries because these sharks fly, hide under the sand, and they also run on land. Just know that a water shark attack feels like nothing compared to this line.
Yep, these Pokemon put terror in terrifying. That's what keeps them on top and the right to be a pseudo-legendary. Not to mention their design just screams power.
I see why you love this line, Professor, as well as you do, PuffySparklez. Being a dragon gives them an edge, but with that strength as well as that powerful bite to them, just looking at Gabite, Gible, and Garchomp just screams one word to me, and that word, of course, is unstoppable.
But of course, Gible, Gabite, and Garchomp are just too good, covering all the categories that make a Pokemon top tier of my favorites. The stats, the reputation, the typing, the hot train, being the champion's ace, and best of all, design.
Since these Pokemon can attack you anywhere you go, maybe it's best to keep a bottle of shark repellent on you at all times. After all, if you're not careful, the last thing you'll ever see are the chompers of Gible, Gabite, and Garchomp, or as we like to call them, the Jaws of Doom.
Well, as amazing and terrifying as Pokemon can be, Professor Sycamore's research proved to us it could become an even more vicious predator of that land shark. And Cynthia's theme wasn't enough. It can Mega Evolve. So let's see what this behemoth is made of, and let's look at what destructive power it has. Mega Garchomp is like staring the Grim Reaper in the face. Because of its violent disposition, there's absolutely no way that you're going to escape without being torn to shreds. The excess energy melted Garchomp's arms and wings, transforming them into giant scythes. Mega Garchomp, seeing this, falls into a rampage. Not just because it's scared of what's going on, but also the excess energy has made it go insane. It will swing both of its scythe arms wildly, slicing everything around it to shreds. Battling a Mega Garchomp is extremely dangerous because Mega Garchomp carves its opponents up with the scythes on both arms. Also, Mega Garchomp's rage is so intense that even winning a battle won't subdue it. If this thing starts chasing you or your Pokemon, make sure you have an Ice type on your team, as that's the only thing that can stop it dead in its tracks. Through Mega Evolution, Garchomp can still fly, and trust me, this thing can fly even faster because of its scythed hands. It will rip through the air in anything like it was nothing. As much as I really do love Garchomp, I have to say, Mega Garchomp is something definitely you want to be scared of. And the moment you see this thing fly, pray to Arceus it does not make eye contact with you, because it will automatically destroy you. So either pray for something to come save you, or make peace with your life, because you're about to prepare for the end by Jaws of the Sky.
Well, trainers, what do you think about this Landshark line? Do you really love it, or are you even more terrified of it than when you had to take it on back in time? Also, do you think going in the ocean looks a lot safer than flying as well as going through the desert? Or do you think all of them are just as scary? I gotta say, I definitely see why Cynthia keeps one on her team. It's a real boss monster. I also see why you really love this thing as well, Professor Sassafras.
Yep, this line always holds a special place in my heart, as I hope it will with trainers too.
Thank you so much, Professor Sassafras. It was great to see you again, and I hope that you had a wonderful time covering your favorite line. This is a great line, and I'm curious to know from you, trainers, is this your favorite pseudo-legendary line, or do you prefer another? Also, if they had regional variants, what do you think that Garchomp, Gabite, and Gible should be? Oh, and if you ever saw their beta designs, do you think that what we got is better, or do you think the beta designs were the better one? I'd love to know from you. If you liked what you saw, please leave a like. If you want to answer any of the questions I said, you learned something new, or you want Professor Sassafras and I to cover another Pokemon line, please comment. And as always, if you liked what you saw and you want to see more, smash that subscribe button. Thank you so much, Professor Sassafras, for our collaboration, and thank you so much, PuffySparklez, for the request of this video. Thanks for watching. Palm out!